All right, welcome back, everybody. So for months, we've dealt with the declining economy, company layoffs, and of course, we've heard all about the bailout plans. But as we head into 09 here, are things going to change? That is the big question. How should we prepare as well? Financial planner Robert Wilson, he joins us this morning to help us answer some of those questions. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so let's start with 09.
Yeah.
The end of 08, actually, most of 08 was not great on the economy. 09, any better?
Well, I wish I could say it was going to turn around on a dime
Yeah.
and things were going to be rosy, but you know, we've lost over 1 million jobs this year, and so those folks are going to be strapped for cash,
Right.
not going to be able to spend, and so unfortunately I think you're going to see some sluggish economy for some time to come.
And if you pick different industries, I've done this over the past few weeks, and I've seen on industry websites, many of the companies, major companies out there are expecting more cuts in 09.
Yeah.
So a lot more job layoffs here.
That's true, but you know, part of what I've been telling my clients is that sometimes the best investment is in yourself, and so there's no, you know, lifetime guarantee of a job anymore. So you need to think about what happens if, you know, technology changes my job and, you know, my job goes overseas. What happens if I do get laid off?
Right.
So, you know, you may need to get trained. You may need to learn some new skills, brush up on some old ones, and figure out, you know, what you're going to do if that situation happens.
You talking about reinventing yourself more or less?
Perhaps. I mean, because things change. I mean, the auto industry isn't going to be the same as it was, you know, 20 years ago. So we've got to learn how to adapt to those types of situations.
All right, well, bailout was a huge word for the end of 08, obviously, and a lot of people need to be bailed out.
Sure.
We're not just talking about corporate, but you're advising folks to try to save if you can. How do you do that in this economy, though?
Well, I tell you what. We talked about the jobs. So you've got to take a look at what your lifestyle is. And when you take a look at that, you might say, you know what, the job that I'm in right now may not allow me to live the type of lifestyle that I want to live. So I think it's time to sit down. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate that it has to have a global financial crisis in order to make people want to take a step back and look at their situations. You've got to sit down, answer some hard questions. That way you can go into the new year with a plan.
So are we looking at cutting things out like cable TV or the extended cable package? I mean, just saving where we can, nip and tuck?
I think so. You know, I think we tend to buy a lot of things that we don't need with money we don't have.
Daily lattes at Starbucks, things like that?
Right, and I think some of those things may need to cut out. And if you put yourself on a budget and maybe start to use some financial software, track where you're spending, you'd probably be surprised at how much of your money goes to McDonald's or someplace like that.
Is that a common mistake? Is there commonality amongst the average American in mistakes we make in trying to save?
Yeah, I think we've fallen asleep at the wheel. I think when times were good, you know, I wish the questions were, hey, Rob, you know, I'm up 20%. What should I do now? But now that people see a lot of red on their statements, you know, you want to look at it. So you can't fall asleep at the wheel. You've got to review this thing periodically, and you've got to have discipline. The only thing that can protect you from what you don't know, and we don't really know what's going on in the economy and the markets right now.
So for the average Joe like me, a dad of two and a family of four here, what's your best advice for somebody like me?
Well, I think with being close to the end of the year, there's a lot of tendency to want to set resolutions, and I don't really like resolutions because I think they're like diets and they don't work. So what I think you want to do is try to make some very small changes throughout the year that by this time next year will add up to some significant changes. Hopefully those small changes that you implement will eventually become habits.
Right.
So how do you sit down, figure out what your goals are, and be very specific? I want to have $5,000 in my, emergency fund by the end of the year, and I want to get one of my credit cards paid off. You've got to be very specific with your goals, because how can you take steps to get there if you don't know where you're going?
All right, and that's debt. That's one of the New Year's resolutions that a lot of people has. Pay off the debt here. So if you've got a number of credit cards, how do you do it? Do you start with the biggest interest rate? Do you start with the biggest debt amount and pay that first? How do you weed that back?
I'd probably start with the biggest interest rate, because that's where all your money is going towards the finance charges. So as aggressive as you can be on those high interest rate cards, maybe you can get a new one and consolidate and get a lower rate. But if you can't do that, definitely tackle the highest interest rate first. And
obviously a lot of folks, the 401ks and everybody, it gets very, very nervous, especially when the economy takes a dive like it has. So do we continue to just kind of hoe the road there, or do we pull some money out? A lot of people get nervous and want to pull out the money.
Right. I think if you've got a long time horizon, young guy like yourself, you've got time to ride this out.
Sure.
And, if you have faith in the country, you've got to believe that the market's
What about somebody closer to retirement, somebody who's in their 60s?
Yeah, I think they need to start to figure out what do I really need? How much can I risk at this point? And what do I need to set aside so I can feel comfortable and sleep better at night? So there's some more decisions to make if you're later on in life.
So real quickly, when do you think things are going to rebound here in 2009?
It's hard to say. If I had a crystal ball, I'd probably be in Tahiti right now. Typically, the markets do tend to turn up prior to the economy. So we're hopeful that mid next year you'll start to see a turn up in the economy, in the markets.
So we've got 6 or 7 months more of, and we haven't defined, there's no, the definition
hasn't come out yet, but we'll probably see 2 negative quarters of negative GDP growth. You know, the only thing you can do is define it in hindsight.
Right, well,
it sure feels like one.
Well, what we're experiencing certainly defines recession, but I guess the GDP hasn't been in negative territory for 2 consecutive quarters, so
not yet.
By definition.
I think we'll see.
It's all semantics.
It is.
Rob, thanks very much. And if you're looking for some financial help and you want to talk with Robert for yourself, all you have to do is contact him. Go to robwilson.tv. We have a link for you on Pittsburgh Today live page. Robert, thanks very much, and best of luck in 09.